My name is Paulina, and this is Nela Kokoszka, and we are members of the Education Department at Wilanów Palace, Warsaw, Poland. And I also used to be a curator of a historical reenactment program. It is the educational program called Garden Kitchen Table. And about this project, I would like to tell you a few words in a minute to describe its background, origins, and obviously its connection with the Wilanów residence and kitchen garden. And Mrs. Nela Kokoszka is responsible for participatory projects concerning historical craftsmanship, reenactment, like embroidery and hobbing lace courses, and partly also for the management of our kitchen garden. And she is also the museum's representative on the European route of historic gardens. And we decided to divide our presentation into parts. So Nela will tell you the story, and she will describe the background of the kitchen garden, and I will describe the educational project.
Good morning. As you see, this is Wilanów Palace, a summer residence of King John III Sobieski. It is situated in Warsaw, Poland, and was erected in the end of the 17th century as a summer rural residence of the king. The king, believed that to be a great farmer, he took a really great care about the palace itself and about its surrounding. Here you can see the palace as it looks now. Of course, in 17th century, it was a little bit different. There was only the medium part of the building, and the side wings was added later in the 18th century. The palace is surrounded by the renovated Baroque gardens located on two terraces. The composition of the garden was developed over the course of the 18th and 19th centuries, eventually taking the form we can admire today. As is visible here, Wilanów Palace estate is and was in the past much larger complex. Except for Baroque gardens, in the palace building, there were also other spaces which has been evolving through the time and during the ownership of the later owners. Among those was, for example, an English-Chinese garden, English landscape park, and this Mauritian Nature Reserve, known in 19th century, it was a romantic park. Very important is also Wilanów Lake, former valley of Vistula River, the main river in Poland, an old riverbed. As you can see, even now it's over 90 hectares, but in the past it's even more. Very important is also a manor home farm, a whole village around the manor estate, which was serving the resident till the beginning of the 20th century. Kitchen garden was an important part of this layout and also changing through the time. The beginning of the real kitchen garden at Wilanów is connected with the raise of the summer palace of King John III in 1682. First kitchen garden was planned in the nearest surrounding of the palace as a part of decorative gardens. You have this green shape that covered this part of this kitchen part of the gardens. Which plants exactly grown in this first garden? We can only guess based on the residual information found in the letters and travel diaries of the time. The regular plots were filled with plantings of fruit trees, herbs, and vegetables. This included apple, pear, plum, and apricot trees. The edges of the flower beds were edged with currants, gooseberries, and inside grew artichokes, kale, and melons. Only one variety of apple tree is recorded in history, and it's said to have been the one of the Queen's Marii Kazimiera favorites, the beloved wife of the King John. The name Kosztela still is used today and was given to it according to accounts by King John. More detailed information on what was cultivated in the kitchen gardens of the Wilanów Palace can be found in the inventories of 17th 29, the times of the next owner, Elżbieta Sieniawska. The descriptions include the division of the garden into plots and lists of plants planted there. In addition to fruit trees and shrubs, there are herbs and vegetables such as marjoram, lavender, lettuce, cucumbers, asparagus, red cabbage, spinach, and others. And you have this, this garden from Sieniawska's time on the left. Plans of ornamental gardens and kitchen gardens have also been modified and developed in terms of the area occupied. The one with utilitarian values reached its highest form at the end of the 18th century, and we have this green part cover this part of kitchen garden in this late 18th century. Here you can see the area photos from the late 1930s and 2015 with the reconstruction of the layout of the kitchen garden in comparison with its today look. The shape of the garden in 20th century unfortunately has been degrading and changing functions, becoming a revalorization challenge for us. In 2014, we made a decision to reconstruct this garden in smaller scale. It is an entirely new garden. It's formed based mainly on the written sources, which was Elżbieta Sieniawska inventory that I mentioned before. So we have a list of plants which appeared in her garden and the shape of that garden. This small garden you can see here is the one we use today. We think about the future restoration and reconstruction, the whole area, but now, of course, because of the funds, it is impossible. The garden is at the backyard of the Wilanów Palace building without an open access to the wide public. What is important for us is became a base for the educational project called Garden Kitchen Table, which concerns the subject of the historic cuisine and culinary reenactment.
Excuse me, can you
Yes.
slow down just a little bit? It's
Okay.
just for the translation.
Okay, sorry. Okay,
Sorry.
sorry.
Excuse me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so in the process of creating the garden, relics found during archaeological research were also very important. In the photos, we see the reconstruction of one such find, and we're still using these things in our gardens. Of course, garden couldn't exist without his plants, and the selection of plants that appeared in the garden was also not random and was the result of analysis and of surviving archives and inventories.
And here you can see the garden, which, as Nela told you already, became a base for our educational project. And it looks like this. And our adventure with culinary reenactment, so the project called Garden Kitchen Table, started over 10 years ago, when museum published first Polish cookbook called Compendium Ferculorum, so the collection of dishes. You can see it here, it's also in English. And it was written in 1682 by Stanisław Czerniecki, very famous cook of the Lubomirscy family. It was the aristocratic family. And this book is considered to be a first Polish printed cookbook. And this publication started a series of studied sources, so mainly culinary recipes. And now the series is called Monumenta Poloniae Culinaria. Now we have 9 books. Some of them you can see here. And we noticed that our guests are very interested in the subject of Old Polish cuisine, historic cuisine, Polish and European culinary and botanical heritage. Therefore, we decided to develop this series of books and present the sources, so the recipes first to the larger audience. And as a result, here you can see some next books. So we have one about 17th century sweets. We have also a translation and interpretation of the French cookbook. It was translation of a Cuisinière Bourgeoise. And in Polish, it is called The Excellent Cook, written by Wojciech Wielątko. And this book brought a change to Old Polish understanding of a taste and the composition of a dish, and is even considered to be a part of the Enlightenment. And here are our latest ones. So the one about 16th century Polish cuisine, the one in the middle, those are the recipes of Paul Tremo. It was the French cook of the last king of Poland, Stanisław August Poniatowski. And the one on the right is quite important for us because this is the inventory of the products which appeared on the court of John Sobieski in the last year of his reign. And after a great review and the success of those publications, we also noticed a need of creating some kind of a tool concerning the subject of Old Polish and European culinary and botanical studies. So we created a passage to knowledge, and this is what you can see here. It's a special addition to our website, which gathers several hundreds of articles about the tangible and non-tangible heritage. And coming back to the sources, so the recipes, which we regard as the background of the project, they look like this, you can see here on the right. So they are very scanty evidence without any clues, any measurements, list of ingredients, anything. So we have many such recipes. They were quite well studied. We developed the professional cooperation with researchers. And then we thought that we should take a step forward. Which was for us creating and developing an education reenactment program concerning the subject of Old Polish cuisine. And the majority of those recipes were connected with King Sobieski, 17th century and Baroque cuisine. And we had this small reconstruction of the kitchen garden. So we decided that such project might be a success. This is once again the small reconstruction of the kitchen garden, full of old, we call sometimes forgotten varieties of vegetables. We use them during workshops, but of course this doesn't cover our demand. We treat this garden rather as a show garden, and if the weather allows us, we go there with the groups and let them pick up some vegetables for the need of the classes. We also have some special sheets, educational materials, and you can see it here on the left. For our students, pupils, and so on. And they concern the subject of old varieties, biodiversity, natural cultivation methods. There are many descriptions and some tasks to be done. And they are used during the dedicated classes because we have some dedicated workshops to this space called the King's Gardener and the Needs of the Garden. Here you can see also the school working with us in the garden. Our main goal is to organize culinary and gardening workshops dedicated to various groups: school children, adults, families, seniors, foreigners, young professionals, especially from gastronomic schools, volunteers. The classes are based strongly on the sources I've shown you, so the recipes, sometimes iconography, but we do not have much of that. And when it comes to the garden, mainly on the inventory and plants, which Nela showed you. The garden plays a very important role during the workshops. If it's possible, we take a group there and make an introduction there, or we finish our classes in the garden. Sometimes we also use the vegetables during the workshops, and we think about selling them maybe in the future because now the crops are not enough for that. And here you can see the group of adults from the culinary workshop working with us in the garden. And our chefs, we have sometimes study visits from other residences and places, especially because of the culinary project, and our chefs is showing, I think it's Jerusalem artichoke for our guests. And our assumption was also to encourage the guests to work with us in the garden and to engage them in some preparations. So you saw children working with us. We created a special program dedicated to school children from Wilanów area, Wilanów district, so the surrounding of the palace. And they took care about the garden during their classes. We also thought to engage them in that activity after school with their parents, but it didn't work. And here you can see some cooperation with Instagram bloggers. And this project was developed 5 years ago. We wanted them to cooperate with us in the garden and to promote our project. Here you can see some workshops, culinary workshops for adults and for schools. And if, as I told you, if we can, we take every such group to the kitchen garden. But we also treat this garden as a base for many other activities. And we would like to take from its supplies and resources as much as we can. And here you can see a small reconstruction of a medicine cabinet, which was, they were very popular in 17th century. And what is inside this medicine cabinet, it's also based on the inventory and on what we have in our kitchen garden. And it is also a part of our classes. Here is also the glimpse from the cosmetic workshops, also based on the supplies of the kitchen garden. And we also know that in Wilanów estate, there was a beehive. So we introduced one near the kitchen garden. It is called King's Beehive, and it produces honey for our workshops and for the museum shop as well. As it is with other activities I've shown you, these also are connected with the past and with the history of the palace. So we are not telling the story about keeping bees in the city, because there are many such workshops and initiatives in Warsaw. We would like to show how it was in the past, how the beehives looked like and how the honey was used. So we also have dedicated workshops to various groups. We have courses about beekeeping. And for example, as you can see on the right, the workshops of preparing ancient beehives. And here are some shows about how it was in the past keeping bees. And after some years of developing this project, we also decided to take part in some international cooperations concerning the subject of table and kitchen and garden. And here you can see the very first one in 2018 with ARRE, so the network of European Royal Residences, of which we are a member. We took part in a project called A Place at the Royal Table. And there were 21 institutions from 12 countries, and all of them prepared something connected to the theme of culinary heritage. And our input to this project was appreciated and quite well known. We received Europa Nostra Prize for it in the category of education and awareness raising, especially for those culinary and gardening workshops and open-air event and the summary. We made a conference about our research about the Old Polish cuisine. And here some other cooperation. First of them, this is in Düsseldorf, Palace of Benrad and Polish Institute in Düsseldorf. Thanks to the Polish Ministry of Culture and their funds, we prepared a project concerning the connection of Old Polish and Old German culinary habits. It is called 4 Seasons in Old Polish Culinary Tradition. And we hope that maybe in the future we will have many other such cooperations. Thank you very much for your attention. We are ready for questions, if there are any.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. It's amazing to see as many people in your pictures. It's wonderful to see as many people in the garden, because after all, gardens are primarily for people. No, that's the first time I see so many people in in seminars, eating also. And it's this link with cooking is a marvelous idea. Thanks so much.
I think a bigger garden, Michel. The garden's too small for all those people that are attending. I love the display of pharmaceuticals because that was my profession. I love to see those old pharmacy bottles and the preparation. Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
We have a question about how many children classes are attending.
25, 30. It's quite a big group for our possibilities. It's like this.
But during the year, how many groups are attending?
Only those classes, so culinary and gardening, it's 350 per year.
And more or less, how long do they spend on site? I mean, what is the average? They spend 2 hours, 3 hours?
2 hours. 2 hours with cooking, yes.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of other questions. Rene has asked if you could give us the titles of the book in English again, please. Could you type
yes.
that?
Yeah, maybe I will write it in the chat during the next lecture.
Would be the best.
That'd be lovely, thank you. And we have a question from Jean-Jacques Lescure. In the culinary workshops, do you use fruit sometimes? And if you do, which ones? And also, do you store some, for instance, apples?
We use mainly apples, I think, and we do not store it because
we don't have space.
Yes, we do not have
proper
enough
space for
it.
that. And actually our apple trees are not so big, so we don't have big amount of the apple after that. So it's a future to have.
Yes, we have a plan and a budget for make it larger and to reconstruct it as it was in 18th century.
Now
So
we
hope
are
to do
using it. If we have it, we are just using it
during the classes.
There was a question about the instrument in clay that you shown in your presentation. Can you maybe show it again and explain what is its function? Sorry to complicate you.
Don't worry.
Because that's an interesting piece.
Okay. There was a question about how many gardeners are look after this garden. We have maintaining we have 1 or 2 gardeners from permanent time. And if we have some situation that we have more people to crop something, herb gathering something, we just have volunteers from our staff or so, or some groups.
There is 3 or 4 of us additionally. And there was also a question about the volunteers. So we do not have a group of volunteers only for this garden, but this is our plan for this year. So in February, we start to recruit them, and maybe we will have a group of people to work with us in this kitchen garden. And those are the bleaching shades, yes? There was the question about it. So we use it for the asparagus to have it white, not green.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it covers the asparagus and then we use it like this.
And
Just
this is a tradition. This is a tradition in this garden.
I think so, because we found some elements of that shape, and then we reconstruct it, and we found this information in old gardens books that
it was used to bleach the asparagus in the garden.
Very nice. You said that you have 2 gardeners. How many people are involved in the educational activities? To run the educational activities?
To run the activities connected with the culinary and gardening program, I think it's 8 to 10 people now, because we have the permanent staff, which is and they are responsible for planning the offer and introducing them, promotion and so on. And we have also the educators, and they are conducting the classes, workshops for us.
In
So
their
you have many more
specializations. So if we have these culinary educators, we have nature educators, historical educators. So it's quite a big group.
No, but it's very interesting because in your project, let's say, because of all these educational activities, in the end, you have many more educators than gardeners.
Yes.
And I think that's an interesting thing because, let's say, historic kitchen garden, old kitchen gardens are cultural objects, and so it's important. There are many educators. If not, you don't really promote. You don't do a good job. So that's a very interesting example. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah.
Albert has asked, what support do you get from the local administration or from the schools? I guess this is financial support.
We have financial from our Ministry of Culture, because it is our superior institution. But for the local administration, so for example, Wilanów district offices, we have some support, mainly when it comes to the promotion of our program, nothing more. No fans, no people, not such things.
And Anne Wolf has a question. Anne, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. Okay. So it's about this wooden bordering. Of course, it's very practical. It's one thing. It's very practical, but also in these inventories, it was some kind of instructions, and we compare it from the sources of historical gardens in 18th and 19th century and earlier. So we just choose this solution because of the.
Yes, this was the best for us.
May I ask a question about volunteers in Poland? Is that something which is quite normal in Poland, or is it a difficult thing?
Yes, this is very difficult to engage and to involve people in our activities. I think that we have to learn this. It's not a common thing in Poland. It's very hard to gather the group of volunteers, not the action volunteers. So we can gather the group for an event. This is quite easy, but for a longer cooperation, it's very, very hard to do that.
Thank you.
And we have another
but you
question.
Intend to do it. You intend to try to do it anyway.
Yes.
Why do you intend to do it anyway?
Because we would like to, Wilanów is a residence in the outskirts of Warsaw. We are 8 kilometers from the city center, and for the inhabitants of the city, this is quite far away. But during the last 10 years, there appeared the small city around Wilanów, and this is also a thing for us, because there is the huge estate. It's called also the city of Wilanów even, and it's 50,000 people living there. So we really would like to engage them in the history of the palace and of the past and the heritage, to make them take care of it, because they choose this place to live, and they treat it even fashionable. They wanted to be here, so we think that they should take care of this place a bit. So
and know the beginning of that place and the importance of that place also.
Yes.
It's the next question. In which months do you receive the classes? Whole the year?
The whole year. It doesn't.
Because of course, if we think about this garden, during this winter, it's difficult, and we don't do this there. But culinary workshops are
all the year.
Yes. Oh, yes, it's whole the year. But also we have another lessons and workshops, so it's around the year.
And there's a question, do you have a special cook who's involved with the project?
Yes, we have two of them. So we have a chef, a sous chef, and they are mainly cooks, but also historians, because this is very, as you saw the recipes, those are very scanty evidence. So it's all about the reconstruction and interpretation of the recipe. There aren't any ingredients, anything. So our cooking is this is an experiment, and we needed somebody with knowledge and experience and the idea how to do that.
René? René, you raise your hand.
Yes, but I already asked my question. Thank you, Michael.
They're asking if the kitchen garden's open to the public.
No, it is and it's not, because it's not like it's not the part of our park and historic garden around the palace. It has the separate entrance to it. So this is open mainly for these culinary and gardening workshops and for the volunteers and for the tours. But it's not like this that you can, buy a ticket and enter the garden. It's not possible.
Can you say a little bit more about the medicinal activities?
It's not the separate project. We've thought about it because in old Polish sources and the tradition, it was like this, that the medicine sources and medicine descriptions, they were the part of the culinary ones. So we just, took them and created some additional tours, additional workshops, and we reconstructed the medicine cabinet as we thought it might have looked like, of course, because it is not the exact medicine cabinet that was in Wilanów Palace. It's the reconstruction based on the sources we had and on the iconography we found from this time. But we thought that our story about culinary heritage would not be full without this part of the story. So because for the people in the past, in 17th century, it was a whole. There wasn't such a division like the culinary one and the medicine one. So we treat it as part of the classes as well.
Other questions?
Il y a une question d'Alain Durnerin qui demande si Albert Maciacek, I'm not sure it's the right pronunciation, qui était directeur de l'école d'horticulture de Tarnów et qui était diplômé de l'école nationale d'horticulture de Versailles en 1883. Est-ce que ce monsieur a joué un rôle dans la restauration des jardins de Wilanów?
Can you repeat the name of this person?
Yes.
You can see it in the question and answers. Maciacek. You see that in question and answer?
Okay. We are not aware of that. So we think not, but maybe we should ask our gardeners who are responsible for this reconstruction. We will write it down and ask them if they use that.
New sources coming from France.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Did you mention about area size? Yes, we mentioned about this. It's
400. It's almost 1,000 square meters, the garden. There was a question about the size.
I remember on some of your, at least some of your pictures, but that's my visual memory, that in your workshops, people, let's say, are formally dressed as cooks or as, let's say, so you seem to give a very an importance to the fact that things are done professionally, with it's with serious. It's very interesting to. That's my maybe that's my vision of the after. It was nice to see all these kids with their hats cooking.
Well, we are obliged even to do that because we have the sanitary office in Poland. It's called Sanepid, and we have to follow all their rules. So the aprons, the hats, and so on as well.
For children, is something very fun and nice, but also it's very important to.
No, but it's important to practice things in the right way. And that's very nice. Yeah. Some other questions? When did your project start? When did you start?
2014, 2013. It's over 10 years now when it started. Both the reconstruction of the garden and the printing of those recipes. It's the same time.
And what's your plans for the future now?
Now we are thinking about making the reconstruction of the garden and about our kitchen because, well, I didn't have time to tell you that and to show you our kitchen. But this is another question and problem of Wilanów Palace because we do not have a proper historic kitchen building in Wilanów. We do it in a modern way, in a modern building. So now we are thinking about some new place for it and maybe the reconstruction, the restoration of the place we have. So those are our plans for the future.
Okay. So you plan to reconstruct a completely different kitchen?
Maybe some kind of the kitchen for the shows, because we have also many extraordinary workshops which take place outside the Villa Intrata, because this is the name of the place where the kitchen culinary workshops take place. So we are thinking about recreating something movable, another way of making these culinary shows.
And do you plan to develop new educational activities?
I think that mainly connected with the garden, with the kitchen garden, because I believe that this will be the first year when we will use it as we wanted to do that. So with all the variety of classes we plan to be there, and maybe with these volunteers and family volunteers and some open air events taking part in the kitchen garden as well. We are planning to develop also archaeological workshops just near the kitchen garden and connected with the garden and with the residents, because one of the owners of Wilanów, Stanisław Kostka-Potocki, is believed to be the first Polish archaeologist. So it's all connected.
Michelle, we have a question from Sarah. Sarah Wayne said, "Is this a unique project in Poland?"
Yes, it is. We were first, and I believe we still are first one in that. There are many other places which would like to follow us, and some of them makes some workshops, some shows, but not in the same scale, I think.
It's a question about espalier fruit. It's unfortunately not. We don't have it. Because it's a question about that if we have espalier fruit trees. So we do not.
How does the economics work? Are your educational do you get some fees from your educational activities?
Yes.
And
We
does it
have-
cover the cost of the garden?
More or less. It's
Yes.
like we have to have tickets for everything we are doing. In Poland, it's very hard to make things for free, and so we simply cannot do that. And when it comes to cover the demand of the project, it covers it. But with the garden and the rising prices now in Poland, we'll see this year how it's gonna look like, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Final question?
I thought there was a question. I thought Mike was going to ask a question, but he's disappeared. So
Okay.
Yes, there is the question about sharing best practices. Sure, we will give you our emails and just write to us. We will cooperate.
Super. That's a great conclusion. Thank you so much for
Thank
this
Thank you.
for this great presentation, also for your achievement. It's so nice to have you part of the symposium. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for
you.
the invitation.
We learned a lot today. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.